The last couple of years have seen the exponential growth of artificial intelligence around the world. As with any great advancement in technology, there are exciting benefits and frightening pitfalls depending on how it's used. Our next guest spent years inside a big tech company and used that experience along with his lifelong imagination to write a story that combines all the classic components for a book you simply can't put down. Author C.J. Farley's latest thriller, Who Knows You by Heart, has been praised as a timely masterpiece, the first great AI novel of our time, hilariously funny and even delicious. CJ joins us this morning. Good morning, CJ.
It is delicious, but please don't eat it, just read it.
Don't eat it, just read it. All right. Let's talk a little bit about your background, which lends into perfectly to what you're doing right now. Born in Kingston, Jamaica, but you moved to the U.S. as a baby, so you lost the Jamaican accent, but visits to the island when you can. All right, your first story that you remember writing as a child, they say write what you know, and oftentimes children do write what they know. At that time, you knew a brand new bike.
That's right. I wrote a short story when I was really little. I must have been like 5, 6, really little. I wrote a story about a flying bike. So since then, I realized you got to sometimes bring a little fantasy to what you're writing about. Although I did spend 5 years working for a tech company, this book is totally a work of the imagination, but a lot of it has turned out to be true in terms of some of the things we see happening today with AI. So it's exciting to see things you put on a page suddenly come out.
Yeah, you kind of predicted it, right? But when it comes to that imagination that you talked about, imagination is so important for so many different things, because unless we imagine something can happen, AI would not even exist, right? Planes wouldn't be in the sky. Going back to you as a child to say, I have a bike, but my bike can fly. Talk a little bit about the importance of writing, especially as a child. We teach them to read, which is important, but when a child starts to write, it opens up other doors.
Yeah, that's so true. And also, I think a lot of times when you're a young child, you can't imagine you can actually write a book that you can get published, that you can get your voice out there. But I grew up in the small town of Brockport, New York. My parents were both college professors. We used to have a lot of writers come to town, and one of them was Isaac Asimov. He's a sci-fi writer that wrote the book Foundation. And having him come visit my small town of Brockport, New York, that excited my imagination. And I thought, okay, if he's real, if he can write books, maybe when I grow up, I can write books too. And that turned out to be the case.
Yeah, and you also had the support of your parents. Sometimes when a child says, when I grow up, I want to be a writer, parents are like, okay, refine that a little bit. What are you talking about? Because both of your parents were published as well. But they encourage you to continue writing. But CJ, you went off to this little school that people may have heard of called Harvard. You were the editor of the, I just want to let you know, I did go to Harvard myself, as many of my friends know, to visit a friend of mine. But anyway, that was the only way I went to Harvard, to visit a friend. But you're the editor of the Harvard Lampoon. When you went off to Harvard, did you know that writing was still something that you wanted to do as your livelihood? Or was that just still a passion?
Yeah, when I first got to Harvard, I joined the Harvard Crimson, which is a school newspaper. But then I began to see what people were doing at the Harvard Lampoon. A lot of them were going off to write for TV, to write books. They had these crazy parties where they all dressed up in tuxes. And I'm like, what's going on over there? Maybe I need to join that group too. And it turned out to be a good move, because a lot of people in Harvard Lampoon really encouraged me to write books, to get published, to pursue my passions. And so when you have that kind of support, it can take you places.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, you wrote the novel Around Harvard Square, which won the NAACP Image Award. And then Before the Legend, The Rise of Bob Marley, you co-wrote and also co-edited The Blues with Martin Scorsese. All right, so you were doing great writing that got all kinds of attention and awards as well. What made you veer off into AI or in tech?
Well, I've always been fascinated by tech. And I remember, I worked as a journalist for Time Magazine and other places, and I once had an interview with Prince. And Prince didn't want me to tape his voice during the interview. And I was like, what's up with that? Why can't I tape you? And he explained, and this is all the way back in 1999, he told me, hey, if you tape my voice, I didn't know what the technology of the future will do with my voice. So I want to control my image and my voice more completely. And I thought at the time, oh, this guy's a little bit paranoid. But now I realize he was prescient. And it really helped to spur me to do more of a deep dive into what technology can do, how the advances in technology can affect our control over our identity. And it all kind of started with Prince because that guy was way ahead of his time.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, young kids going into law school right now, they're like, what kind of law should I focus on? This is a brave new world right now where it's, the whole AI law, right? Because of just what you just said. And of course, working for that tech company, you kind of saw what really goes on when you pull back the curtain. We're seeing a little bit of that right now with all the lawsuits taking place. All right, so things are swirling in your head and you come up with this idea for Who Knows You by Heart. And you have all those great components in this book because there's the AI curiosity that a lot of us have, but also what never goes wrong is a romance thrown in there. And then, of course, a mystery. Give us the basic plot of this book when it all comes together.
Yeah, the book Who Knows You by Heart is about a young coder who's sort of dissatisfied with a job. She takes a high-paying job in big tech, but then she finds out that her big tech dream job, that her employers are hiding a terrible secret about the AI initiative that she's working on. And things begin to spill out from there. It's a love story. It's a thriller. It's also an investigation of what AI can and can't do. Deborah, I read that you had your own sort of encounter with AI where some AI platform you were working with thought that you'd won a Grammy. I mean, you've won lots of awards.
I literally said, chat, tell me about Houston talk show host Deborah Duncan and her Grammy Award. And it talked about me being a talk show host. And then it said, and you're right, fun fact, she also won a Grammy. But then I said, what did she win a Grammy for? She goes, you caught me. She didn't really win a Grammy.
Did it mention your Emmys at least? She got to mention your Emmys.
No, she didn't mention those. I don't like her.
Yeah, and that's a problem with AI. Sometimes until you catch it, it won't admit that it's wrong. And there are also all these hidden biases that are encoded in AI. We think of AI as sometimes this perfect thing that can lead us to the future, but there are a lot of issues with it, and we need to start talking about that now before it's too late.
Yeah, because it's only as good as the curated information that it's working with. And so the thing is somebody might take that first thing that it said as fact, and all of a sudden there I am with Grammy Awards, which I wouldn't complain about. But at the end of the day, your best advice there are people who are on completely opposite sides of the spectrum when it comes to AI. There are some people in the middle, but there are some that are saying it's the devil, don't want to deal with it at all. Others who say it's the best thing ever. It's not going away, so we're going to have to mitigate this.
Yeah, well, speaking of the devil, I mean, there's a story that Nick Cave, who's a rocker, that he uses that I think really illustrates some of the issues with the AI. Right now, we're being assaulted with this AI entertainment, AI in music, AI in movies, AI in books. And the problem, he says, is he looks back to the biblical story of creation. God made the world in 6 days. On the seventh day, he rested. And I think that indicates, and this is what Nick Cave says, it indicates that it took something out of God to create the world. The problem with AI is that its creation takes nothing. It takes no effort. It doesn't come at a cost. Unless creation, making something, comes at a cost, it really is kind of useless. And that's why I think when we take in AI entertainment, when we find out a video was AI generated, not real, it leaves us feeling dissatisfied, like eating a bunch of Doritos. And that's a problem we have to overcome.
Look, I'm not mad at Doritos, but yes, I get your point. I definitely get your point. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Hey, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
All right. Who Knows You by Heart, the latest release from author C.J. Farley, is available now everywhere books are sold. For more information, visit greatdayhouston.com and we will connect you.